Development Team with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. And I'd like to welcome you once again to the 40th Annual Legislative Conference. I am so happy and excited for you to rejoice today, because I know next week when you return back to your places where you live, people are going to say to you, "How was the party?" And you're going to stop them and tell them that instead of talking about the party, let me let you know about the education and knowledge that I received when I was at the "Tis the Best of Times, Tis the Worst of Times" forum. You are today going to have an opportunity to hear from experts about the different challenges in these economic times, and an opportunity for you to be able to have questions answered and get the knowledge about different opportunities that are available for you during these times. And as we begin, now I know I'm going to mess this part up, I'm also supposed to let you know that we have a handle on the Twitter, I know I sound like Betty White right now, that is at #40thALC, where you can also have additional questions answered. And right now, I'd also like to bring up Mr. Walter Rodriguez from Hyundai, the Manager of Diversity and Relations.
Thank you for that kind introduction. I'd like to start off first by thanking the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation for allowing Hyundai to be a sponsor of the Emerging Leaders Series, and in particular today's summit. At Hyundai, we understand the meaning of "tis the best of times, tis the worst of times." During a tumultuous economic meltdown last year, Hyundai was only one of 3 automotive companies in the U.S. to actually have sales growth. In addition, Hyundai became the 5th largest car company in the world. But we did this through diversity of thought, an entrepreneurial spirit, and staying humble by listening to our customers and our strategic partners like the CBCF. So on behalf of Hyundai employees in the U.S. and my colleagues with me here today, I'd be honored to present this representative check in the amount of $50,000 to the CBCF in support of their programs.
As we continue on, I would like to now bring up Mr. Alan Hughes, Editorial Director of Black Enterprise.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good to see you up. I know a lot of you young folks, 10:30 a.m. is like 6 a.m. for old people like me. So I appreciate it. Welcome to the very appropriately titled "Tis the Best of Times, Tis the Worst of Times." As you all know, that the crisis, the economic crisis, the financial meltdown, unemployment rate's about 9.6% now. It's very challenging right now. In fact, we all know someone that's out of work or could well be out of work in the very near future. But there's an old Chinese proverb that says, with crisis comes opportunity. So that's what we're here to talk about. The rules have changed in business. The things that worked 10 years ago, 20 years ago, don't work anymore. You need new strategies, greater focus on education. Technology has taken root and has made the global economy something that everybody can participate and compete in, regardless of the size of your company or even yourself as an individual. So there are opportunities out there. How do you get to them? How do you know what they are? How do you identify them? How do you prepare yourselves for these opportunities that are there now and the opportunities that will be there in the future? That's what we're going to talk about here. So I'd like to start off by introducing the panel here. We've got a great panel. I'm very excited to be with them. and I'm sure you're going to learn a lot from them. Starting from my immediate right is Maggie Anderson. She's the CEO and founder of the Empowerment Experiment. Next is Brandon Comer, the managing partner and CEO of Comer Capital LLC. Following him is Ivy Grant, Senior Director and Business Development for Polo Ralph Lauren. And finally, Tiffany Marie, Human Resources, IT professional, entrepreneur, author, everything. You name it, she does it. So what I want to do is talk about briefly the format we're going to follow, because we really want this to be a dialogue. We want to hear from you, hear your questions. So this is a two-way communication. We're not just talking at you. We want to hear and talk to you and listen to you. So I'm asking each panelist to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about what they do, as well as what they want to talk about. And then we're going to let each panelist really go into the topic that they want to discuss. And then we really want to get to the questions. So but we don't want to run out of time. We want to get to everybody. So let's start off again to my immediate right. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, how you do it, and what you'd like to discuss, Maggie?
Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here. I am Maggie Anderson, the CEO and founder of the Empowerment Experiment. I'll give you a little bit about my professional and educational background first, and then present to you what the Empowerment Experiment is, in case you don't know. I earned my BA in political science at Emory University. After that, I was a speechwriter for the mayor of Atlanta and the governor of Georgia. I decided to go to law school in Chicago. I earned my JD at University of Chicago, and then my MBA. From there, I went into corporate. I did corporate strategy for McDonald's. McDonald's is headquartered in Chicago. I did that for a few years, and afterwards, I actually had my own consulting firm. Me and a partner had a consulting firm. And then we started building a family, and I had been doing contracting work, strategy, consulting, business research, that kind of stuff. My husband is just as overly degreed. We're gluttons for punishment. And we'd both basically earned a lot of success in the corporate world. We're living a nice apple pie, middle-class, suburban life. We have 2 beautiful little daughters. We live in Oak Park now, a kind of affluent suburb of Chicago. And basically, we made it. I come from Liberty City, Miami. I'm not sure if any of you know about Miami, but that's a tough, economically depressed part of town there. John is from Detroit. And I guess we had achieved everything we needed to achieve. But the problem was that everything we had, all of our credentials, all of our successes, were about what we did in school, what we did at work. It wasn't about who we really are and what we contributed to our community. So now I can talk to you about the Empowerment Experiment. Maybe it was before Carol was born, about 5 years ago, we were celebrating an anniversary, and we went to a very posh restaurant in downtown Chicago and spent several hundreds of dollars on our dinner. And throughout the whole time that we were there, we, just like many other middle-class black professionals, we talked about all the social crises in our community and what we're going to do about that and how we're going to give back and blah, blah, blah. We talked about mentoring and stuff like that and giving more to NAACP and UNCF and going to more conferences and being more involved. And then we paid the check. And that's when we realized that we were part of the problem that we had spent all those hours talking about trying to fix. We think in the Empowerment Experiment that we can cure a lot of the social crises that disproportionately impact black people if we were to empower our business sector. We've made it to the mountaintop, black people, in terms of where we are politically. We overcome slavery, Jim Crow, we have Barack in the White House. Where are we economically? Economically, we are no better than we were since Reconstruction. We have 1/10 the transferable wealth as our white counterparts. This condition has not changed since Reconstruction. Our businesses are, in terms of success rates, we start a lot of businesses, but in terms of success rates, revenue growth, the ability to employment to actually have more employees, we are a distant third behind other minority groups, namely Asians and Hispanics, where maybe 25 years ago we were far ahead first. We are losing the economic battle. We are not getting better economically. You know what's going on in our communities. Our community's economic health worsens every day. And the other part about it is that even in the Black community, where you would hope you'd find some thriving Black business centers, we don't even have Black business growth there. In the empowerment experiment, what my husband and I decided to do, because of all these challenges I just presented to you, we decided to take a public pledge to completely live off Black business and talent and buy only Black made for an entire year. It was a huge sacrifice. We knew it would be, but we did it to take a stand and to bear out this premise of self-help economics, that if we were to be more accountable for our communities and were to support our businesses like we used to, things would be better for us. We wouldn't have to live at the bottom. And we took that stand, and it was actually an academic experiment. We saved every receipt. Northwestern University's Kellogg Graduate School of Management conducted a study on what we did, first ever case study on self-help economics in the Black community. And the major thing about it, and it's probably why I'm here, is we dominated headlines. CBS, CNN, MSNBC, front pages of LA Times, Chicago Tribune, you name it, covered the empowerment experiment, this journey of this family giving back to their community and taking a stand in honor of Black business. So today, because of our journey, because of what we learned in the empowerment experiment, I want to challenge our young people not just to buy Black. It's not as simple as that. It's not about buying Black. It's about empowering our businesses so that our children will have more local role models, so that our communities can be more economically empowered. That's what it's about. So I want our children to consider, our youth to consider entrepreneurship opportunities. I want you to start thinking more about how you spend your money and try to support those companies like Hyundai, who's here today, that are investing in the Black community. You have so much power in your wallet. I hope that you would use it to make your community better. And you have so much talent and spirit. I hope that you would use that too to make your community better by being a business owner. Thank you.
Maggie, if I recall, Black Enterprise also did.
Yes, Black Enterprise did cover.
that part out. Okay, next up, Brandon.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Brandon Comer. I am the managing partner of Comer Capital Group. A little bit about my background. I attended undergrad at Xavier University of Louisiana, business school at Mississippi College, and Taft Law School. I, like most of my peers, went to work for corporate America immediately after finishing school. I worked with a boutique investment bank in Atlanta, TMG, before going over to Regions Financial Corporation and managing commercial underwriting, and then on to Blue Cross and Blue Shield as the director of finance. While I was in commercial and investment banking, I noticed that there was a disparity in the amount of transactions that we were doing with African-American-owned businesses. And I also noticed that I was spending a lot of my time, instead of completing transactions, advising these business owners on how to get ready to actually get to the point of doing the transaction. So I was doing more advisory work, which I wasn't being paid for, than I was actually closing deals. And so I looked at how many businesses were dedicated towards getting these companies financially prepared to either receive the initial startup capital, or if they had successfully started a company to go from the entry level to that next level of doing business, to take their companies from good to great. And that was the birth of Comer Capital. Started the firm a little over 2 years ago. And since that time, we've helped black businesses with a little over $1 billion in transactions. And I love what I do. You know, when you're working for someone else, you know, it's great, but at the end of the day, when you own your own time, and when you can see and you can control your impact on the community, I think it's a wonderful thing. So I just want to talk a little bit about how do you prepare to capitalize your endeavor. If you're working for an entity, you can have passive ownership in an entity. Or if it's something that you feel really strongly about and you want to actually be actively involved in a corporation, then obviously you can pursue that as well. But no matter how actively you're involved in the company, it will not succeed if you don't have the appropriate financial structure. So although marketing is important, you're having a great idea is important, the first thing is to see, you know, how can I capitalize this? Do I have angel investors? Am I going to take out debt? What is my 3-year, 5-year, 10-year projections? And then you can really get an idea of how successful your business is and who your strategic partners need to be. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I think a lot of the questions are going to come towards me regarding the legislative actions, but I really just want to impress upon you that you can be successful. There are plenty of financial opportunities available that I will go into in more depth a little bit later on, and we have a great panel, so I look forward to your questions regarding the financial aspects of business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Ivy Grant.
Hi. I really want to ask the right side of the room to move to the middle. That would make me so happy. Don't y'all want to move in and be all tied up in here with you guys? Don't you want to be together? Isn't there any black love left in the world? Hi, I'm Ivy Grant. I'm not a comedian. I play one on TV. I'm the Senior Director of Corporate Business Development for Polo Ralph Lauren. That means a lot and a little, so we'll talk a little bit about that. But to talk about from the beginning, I got a degree in applied economics from Cornell University many years ago. I was an econometrics major. That means I was a math geek. If there are any math geeks in the room, there is recovery from the addiction. I left Cornell and actually went directly into consulting. Back in the mid-90s, it was all the rage to do technology consulting, SAP implementations, I'm sure some of you have heard of. So I actually started at a company called Pricewaterhouse, which turned into PricewaterhouseCoopers, which turned into IBM Business Consulting Services. I was there for 7 years doing operational consulting, traveling the world, having a really good time. And then I thought to myself I wanted to do something different, so I went to grad school. I went to NYU, got a degree in corporate finance. If anyone has any questions actually about going to grad school for free, I was a consortium fellow while I was there, so if you have any questions about that, please let me know. After I left my MBA, I actually joined another strategy consulting firm, this time a slightly larger and more prestigious one, McKinsey & Company. I was at McKinsey & Company for 4 years, doing everything from organizational management to business planning to business launch and startup, which is sort of where I got my business development legs under me in terms of understanding marketplaces, how to assess customer growth, how to do projections, valuations. At McKinsey, I worked at first in the media and entertainment practice. So my side gig has always been sort of the music business, actually. So I worked in media and entertainment there, but then I moved from there into consumer marketing, consumer products, and luxury retail. And that led me to Polo Ralph Lauren. About a year ago, after a long stint in South Africa, and previous to that, a long stint in Brazil, and previous to that, a long stint in Australia, I decided maybe I should come home. So, I had to have babies and stuff. That's what Mama keeps telling me. So, so I came home, joined Polo Ralph Lauren. It's been a really great experience there. So I think the one interesting part about me that's kind of different from the rest is that I'm sort of the corporate girl. So if there's any questions about how to kind of navigate the corporate waters as opposed to maybe going out on your own, I can help field those. In addition to that, though, I also have another side gig, which is that I do a lot of small to medium-sized business consulting. So I actually help startups, small businesses. I live in Harlem, New York, so small businesses in Harlem actually get off the ground. So that's everything from business planning, understanding your marketplace, actually going out and figuring out who your key demo is, and helping people actually take that from an idea into a real concept and then putting it out into the world. So I think we can talk a little bit about how to go global, how to work all over the world. I think we can talk a little bit about managing your brand in the corporate world and also managing your brand as an entrepreneur. So happy to take any questions on any of those topics.
Thank you, Ivy. Tiffany Marie, excuse me.
Good morning. My name is Tiffany Marie, and I'm here from Atlanta, Georgia. And I guess the one thing I want to talk about is when I was initially asked to be a part of the panel, I had to give a title. And for me to just kind of narrow myself down to one title, as you know, when Alan was doing the introductions, I do multiple things. I wear multiple hats. So I'll start with first a little bit of my background in education. I went to Spelman College, where I majored in computer science, and I also attended Georgia Tech, where I majored in industrial engineering. So I was also a geek, a computer geek, if you will. I always loved computers from the time that I was young, but in addition to liking technology, I've also had a creative side and an entrepreneurial spirit since I was young. So I started out, I would go pet sitting for my neighbors. They'd go on these 2-week-long vacations, and I'd walk their dog Murphy, and make a little money on the side. And I thought, this is nice. I have a little extra money on the side of my allowance. And that continued to go on even through college. So I would be in college, I was studying computer science by day, but at night, I was a member of a sorority, Delta Sigma Theta. I don't know if there's any Deltas in the house today. Okay, but I would create these videotapes. And this is kind of dating myself because these were VHS tapes. But I was selling VHS tapes of step shows and of events. And this was, again, that entrepreneurial side was always trying to get out of me. So after I graduated from college, I also went the consulting route. It was the big boom. I graduated in 2000, so they were recruiting us very hard and heavy at that time. And I joined Ernst & Young, but then within the year of joining, they became Capgemini Consulting. Mm-hmm. Through Capgemini, I was able to travel to different places, work for companies like Lucent, for Coca-Cola, for AT&T, and do IT implementations and other work. But I still kept doing the entrepreneurial thing on the side. So at that time, I was doing event planning. I was in Atlanta, kind of becoming known as the social butterfly and planning networking events or working with clients to plan their book launch events. So I was still kind of wearing these two hats. I left consulting after 6 years, and I joined the Coca-Cola company full-time, and that's where I am now. I actually work in human resources, so I expect to hear some questions around career and around being mobile in the corporate sphere, especially in this time. I work on the technology side, so when you go to Coke.com and you go to the career pages, that's me on the back end, filtering all the resumes. For any of you out there that have thought, does my resume go into a black hole? No, it goes to me. And then I work with the recruiters to make sure that they're able to search and find optimal candidates. But still along the side, I've continued to write, I've continued to do event planning, and I decided, well, I want to take this knowledge and give back and share, because I found being in HR, being in IT, people would ask me questions about, well, how can I tailor my resume? And at first it would be people with technical backgrounds like myself. So I would give tips, on how to do resumes. That turned into, well, let me take you to coffee and, let me talk to you about my career and let me talk to you about my resume. So we took coffee and then turned that into, okay, well, I'll pay you to look at my resume. So that has become a company that I now call Personality on a Page. I do resume revisions and consulting as well, just because I want to take that opportunity to give back. And as has been mentioned on the panel as well, I'll go to different colleges. I've spoken at Morehouse and Georgia Tech, and also speak to young African-American students about the best ways to kind of position themselves for corporate America, but also keeping in mind those passions. So if there's one thing that I can impart here today on this panel, is to kind of think about not just your profession, what's your career going to be, but also think about your passions. And as an entrepreneur, you have to have that passion. I think one of the keys to success as an entrepreneur is, what is that thing that you would do for free? If you won the lottery and you could just go out there, what would it be? For the book series that I launched, which is called Stuck on Stupid Books, I have a career book. It's called Stuck on Stupid for Today's Professional Stuck in a Rut. And in that book, I interviewed an ex-CEO. He was a CEO for a major shoe company. You may have heard of this nonprofit. It's called Souls for Souls. They actually collect shoes and give them to people who have been impacted by hurricanes, by natural disasters. And this man, Wayne Elsey, who founded the organization, started out thinking, I want to do this this is what I want to do. I want to work in this corporate entity and do this work. And he was doing the volunteering on the side. But as he started to think about it, he thought, I want to make this my career. So what I'd like to impart today, and I'll take any questions, is, how can you take your passion, take your talents, and take a profession and kind of make this, lifelong dream come true? And that's something that I've been working towards and feel like I've made great progress on. So look forward to the discussion.
Looks like you do a little bit of everything.
I'm a Jane of all trades.
I need a little help with my car. You want to take
I change oil too. So.
All right, a little bit about me, and then I want to throw some questions out. I'm also in New York. It seems like there's a lot of New York up here. Born and raised in Manhattan, went to Rutgers University in New Jersey, and I spent a good deal of my career on Wall Street at S&P, a big financial services company downtown. Left there, went to Business Week for a while. I was basically covering the international scene, global companies, and then left to go to Black Enterprise, where I was a business editor, then features editor, then managing editor, and then editorial director, which really doesn't mean a lot, it just means they give me a lot of work. One of the areas that I'm directly responsible for is our business coverage, particularly our global business coverage, which we're really starting to push more and more because we see that as the future opportunities. You have to think global. 95% of the world's population is in this country. That means 95% is outside. And that sort of dovetails into my first question, which would be, I'd like to throw it out to Ivy, but anyone can piggyback off of it. But I want to ask you, how important is it to have that global experience, to have worked overseas, to position yourself to really succeed in the corporate space?
Well, I think it's extremely important, particularly in times like these. I'm not saying anything confidential in saying that recently Polo Ralph Lauren announced that we are buying back our licenses in Asia. And that press release went out 2 weeks ago, so I'm not. And one of the countries that I work on is Korea. So having had experience, from my perspective, working and living in South Africa, working and living in Australia, working and living in Brazil, in places where I didn't feel necessarily comfortable, I didn't know the language, and having that experience going into companies, assessing their current situation, getting to know people, getting them to give me information, being able to do that and feel comfortable doing that in any situation is the first piece that you learn from working globally. The second piece starts to be about, really specifically about certain cultures, how people spend differently, what their patterns are. But the first thing you learn is just how not to be afraid to walk into a room full of people that you don't know and who may not speak your language, and be totally comfortable leading that meeting. And I think for me, that experience going overseas was really important to my career, because now it became a huge part of why, when I left McKinsey and actually started at Polo Ralph Lauren, it was a huge part of why they wanted to hire me, because I already had experience assessing markets outside of the US and understanding how US companies had to play differently in those marketplaces.
Now, I just want to ask the audience a quick question. Show of hands, how many people have a business or are looking to start a business? Okay, good portion of it. How many of you have thought about financing that company and positioning it to compete overseas? Okay, so that's a very small percentage. So you see,
there's so much opportunity. I think that right away I just want to say that it doesn't have to be a multinational global company in order to take advantage of things that are happening overseas. You have to be willing to do a lot of footwork. You have to be willing to be open to partnering with someone who might be able to help you get into a marketplace. But you as a small business person can actually be a lot more nimble on the global scale than a company as large as a Polo Ralph Lauren, for example. We've got a huge amount of back-end and infrastructure that has to be put in place. We have norms and processes that have to be done in a certain way. But when you're a small business person, you can kind of come in and tailor your business to that marketplace much more quickly. So if you're not thinking about it, just take a second and think to yourself, is my customer always going to be in the US? And so it's not necessarily going to be the next wave of your business from where it is today, but you can be thinking to yourself 3 to 5 years down, is there a customer that is outside the US for me? Can I get to that customer? Do I have to go to that customer, or can I get to that customer through the web, for example? So just think necessarily long term about that global implication.
And I want to jump in just for a second. For those, it looked like there were definitely less hands that went up around, am I thinking about doing business outside of the U.S.? For me, definitely with Coca-Cola on the corporate side, we're all around the globe. I mean, I was recently able to go to Germany and work in Berlin, and you do learn that, even though people might not speak the same language, when it comes to hiring, everyone has the same goal, to hire the best candidate for the job, no matter where that was, and using technology to do that. But on the flip side, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I was contacted this year the first time from a candidate in Europe who wants me to look at their resume. And I think sometimes we have this fear of, oh, well, I've never done that, or why would they come to me? I mean, he must have found me in some advertisement or just word of mouth and things of that nature. So I've taken that client on to assist him with his resume revision. And this could open a whole new door for me, even in terms of partnering with somebody if someone needs a resume done in a different language. This particular person wants an English CV, but I could do that. I could think about, okay, let me partner with someone who could assist with the translations, and that could open a whole new door of business for me from a resume revision standpoint as an entrepreneur.
Or becoming known as the person who knows how to tailor a resume from outside of the U.S. to U.S. standards. So there's a market right there.
So you can be my publicist.
I'm a business development person, girl. I'll blow up your business.
I want to move briefly to talk about money. That's something that is near and dear to, I'm sure, everybody in this room. And since there were so many entrepreneurs in the audience, I want to throw this out to you, Brandon. Basically, we all know that the banks aren't lending the way they used to. Small business lending has dropped, and there's been some discussion and some talk about legislation, what have you, to really encourage the banks to lend to the small businesses, but it's still not really happening. With that said, I need some money for my business. What can I do?
Okay, you're absolutely right. The credit markets have been extremely tight, particularly for small businesses. What the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act did was stimulate a lot of money directly to counties and local municipalities to help stimulate public-private partnerships. One program in particular, recovery zone facility bonds. A lot of times when you think about how do I finance my business, you think bank or angel investors, but you don't necessarily think about how can I partner with the local government who's supposed to help foster economic development. This program allows you to actually finance real estate or whatever your type of business is through the issuance of tax-exempt bonds. The bond market has actually had a very strong appetite despite the commercial banks not lending. So one of the things that we say is take a step back and look at, is your business going to create new jobs? What's going to be the impact of that business on the local tax base? And if it's going to have any type of impact in those areas, then work with a financial advisor to structure a transaction where you could look at something like tax-exempt bonds. A lot of times, your local government entities aren't aware of some of these programs. I mean, they're literally giving money back to the federal government, or they're not using allocations because they're not well versed on it. So really, like Ivy said, you got to do a lot of legwork and know what financial resources are available to you and take that to them and say, hey, look, here's my idea, here's how I like to structure the transaction, how can we accomplish it? The other thing is you got to find some people that you can partner with. A lot of times we'd rather have 100% of nothing than give up 20% of our idea. So, if it's your idea, if it's your brain trust, but you don't necessarily have the economic resources to bring it to fruition, then you need to find someone that you can partner with that can help bring some of those financial resources to the table. And there are different ways to do that. Sometimes they can just actually give you the collateral that you need to get the loan. Because one of the things banks really focus on is if you default, what's our collateral? And the best collateral is cash. So we've been doing a lot of CD secured transactions. So a lot of people have CDs with the banks. They'll partner with you and they'll just let you use their CD as the collateral for your loan. And then we'll turn around and get an SBA or USDA guarantee to kind of take some of the risk exposure from them. So look at your guarantee programs, depending upon where you are. If you're in a rural area, USDA Rural Development has fantastic programs. They have a rural business enterprise grant. They have a great loan guarantee program. The SBA has some great programs, and then your states also have some programs. So these things change on a daily basis. So if you're not really actively monitoring it, you could kind of miss the boat. But that's what we do, is help find the best way for you to capitalize that business at the lowest cost to you, because there are some people out there who will love to come in and take a percentage of your idea and you not really get what it's worth.
But lenders also look at the type of small business lenders. They look at the type of business that you have.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of talk about the STEM fields. So is it true in the case of an entrepreneur that if your business is in the sciences or it's a high tech, you're more likely than someone trying to open a dry cleaners?
It is. There are certain key industries that they're honing in on, but you have to look at where that business is within the cycle. If it's a startup, then obviously there's going to be risk regardless of the market sector. When you look at the shift in the population, we have a lot of people who are retiring, a lot of small business owners who don't necessarily have that golden retirement package. The way they fund their retirement is selling their business. So a great opportunity is not necessarily just starting a new business, but to acquire an existing business. And a lot of times these small business owners will work with you on a creative financial structure. So they may help owner finance, part of it, to help you meet that capitalization mix. So if the bank says, hey, you need 20% down, well, the selling entity may help you with that so that you can help buy them out. So there are a lot of existing businesses. There are a lot of distressed assets right now that you could be looking at as well. We all know what happened with the real estate crisis. I mean, you could buy some real estate for 30, 40 cents on the dollar. That's a very toxic assets is a very active market right now. So there are a lot of industries that you can go into that lending institutions look very favorably upon. It's just a matter of where your passion is, and then finding the best capital mix to meet that.
I'm going to throw out another question, and hopefully we get some folks that have some questions to ask on their own. I know there's somebody that's got a wireless mic that's going to go around, so just raise your hand and we'll make sure that we get to you. But speaking of STEM, I mean, everyone's been talking about it now. How could a younger person, or even someone that's not so young, somebody like me, position themselves to really take advantage, assuming it's real, that these are the real opportunities? What can we do to position ourselves to take advantage of those opportunities? And anyone can answer that.
I can jump in here, particularly not necessarily about the STEM piece, but just really especially young Black entrepreneurs. What I learned in the empowerment experiment, a lot of the most successful Black businesses, the top quality Black businesses that we encountered in our journey, were these businesses that were not in your typical Black markets or industries. So what I always try to encourage young people to do is, especially technology, green, the hot stuff, really think about those industries where we're not so heavily represented already. Some of my best entrepreneurs were, a lot of luxury goods markets. We just had an event last night where we were promoting a lot of Black-owned alcohol companies. We spend a lot of money. A lot of these companies their bread and butter is the Black consumer. And for the most part, a lot of these Black consumers don't know about the top quality Black alcohol brands that we have. Now in the empowerment experiment, we're promoting those brands, and those companies, just in this year that we've been doing this, have seen a lot of growth because of this. And they've been experiencing a lot of attention from other titans in those industries for not just to buy out the company, but partnerships, franchising, all kind of stuff like that. Because in those industries where we don't exist already, there's so much opportunity out there. And it's not necessarily about racism. It's that the opportunities haven't been presented to them. So when we say to a big alcohol brand, hey, there's this wonderful black cognac, there's this wonderful black wine, there's this wonderful black vodka, let's start doing some things together, then that's a huge opportunity for them. But it's much tougher if you're trying to open up a mom and pop dry cleaner, or if you decide you want to open up a restaurant, or you want to, and I'm not trying to put down any of these ideas, but a lot of the young entrepreneurs I meet want to design a clothing label, or those kind of things. And all of that is great, but it's tougher because a lot of young black kids are trying to do that. Think about something else: technology, green, luxury goods is a good place to be, education. There's other things that we could be doing. So, of course, like we always say, follow your passion. But I really want you to look at those industries where there's a lot of black consumers, but there's nothing at the top in terms of black representation. It's important, first of all, there's more fertile ground for you to find an opportunity. Is corporate diversity, very hot always. The business case for corporate diversity is there. We want our employees to represent the markets that we serve. Supplier diversity, that's the new fertile ground. Not all of the companies yet even have supplier diversity departments, but a lot do, and the ones that don't are getting them. Supplier diversity, franchisee diversity, that's the hot stuff. Right, so being a young black entrepreneur is, the hot thing, not just trying to get into the corporate sector.
But the thing to just interject, to keep in mind with the supplier diversity is that, and I was speaking with an executive of Walmart that basically said, when we start looking for minority candidates for different services, when we look at things like janitorial services, there's 1,000,001 of them.
Yep.
When we start looking at IT, we have a problem.
Exactly.
Because we cannot find somebody to fill that need.
Had that same conversation with OfficeMax, with Walgreens, corporations who have come to us saying, we believe in what you're doing, we get it, we want to help, we want to increase, because my whole thing, when I preach out there, I say, look, Walgreens, you don't value me with cute little black commercials with black kids running around, and Walmart, you don't value me when you have the ice cream man doing the ice cream dance in the commercials. You value me with shelf space. You value me with vendor relationships, supplier relationships. And they've come back to me with that. Always the janitorial piece, that, that's what we're coming to them trying to do. So I'm pushing you real hard to consider those industries where we're not heavily represented. There is a lot of opportunity out there from the big brands who want to partner with you in terms of franchisee diversity, supplier diversity, and vendor diversity, and just in terms of your possibility for success, where those, especially in those areas where we represent a big part of the consumer base, but we don't have enough ownership, that's a big opportunity for you too. And just in terms of social responsibility, what makes my job tough in the empowerment experiment is that there are a lot of negative stereotypes about black entrepreneurs, about black goods and services, black businesses in general.
That they're inferior.
Right, that they're inferior. And this, we perpetuate this ourselves. How we defy those stereotypes is with, how we've been most successful at doing that is showing off like Selena Cuff from Page and Black Enterprise, fantastic wine importer. You just don't think of a black person when you think of a wine importer. So once I tell them, Selena Cuff is part of the empowerment experiment, now what do you have to say? That's how you start chipping off at those stereotypes. So it makes it easier for us in this challenge to empower black business to be able to lift up entrepreneurs who are in atypical industries. I got a lot of restaurants. I got a lot of braid salons. I need more technology experts, luxury goods folks, real estate developers. I mean, there's a million things that we could be doing. Same conversation with Disney, too, because I yelled at them, about Princess Tiana. And, you got the movie and everything, but where are the business relationships that come out of Princess Tiana? So that kind of stuff. Really, really think about those outside industries. First of all, because the corporate brands want to work with you, but there's not enough of you in the pool.
But that comes down to education.
Yes.
I mean, if you're in this area and this is what you do, but this is where the opportunities are, you need to go from here to there. So anyone else want to weigh in on how you get to where the opportunities are?
I just want to say it's not just about education. It's also about, I have a theory that I talk about with my friends all the time about shine jobs. Like, a lot of my friends who came out of college with me want to have a job that's shiny. And the shiny jobs are club promoting, something where you might eventually meet Puffy in a social setting, And I tell people all the time, I work for a $7 billion company that has hundreds, if not thousands, of licensees. So we don't make a lot of our product. We buy our product from other vendors, we put our name on it, and we sell it. Because we can't actually, if we owned all the manufacturing for the belts, the shoes, the accessories, the sunglasses, and a lot of these, particularly our leather workers, for example, are smaller companies. They're not these, like Luxottica does our sunglasses, but like the leather working, how we make our braided belts, et cetera, these are licensed out to companies, sometimes mom and pop operations all over the world, who do it for us. We put our name on it, we sell it in the store. Now, why do we not have a large number, for example, of minority businesses, women-owned businesses, who are providing shoes, leather, hats, accessories, sunglasses, all the kind of stylish things that we wear every day? And instead of being on the front end of that look where you're the Ralph Lauren of it, instead you're on the back end of it, making actually the actual money on it in the back. But the shine job says, I want to be Ralph Lauren, right? But sometimes the job that is the guy who sells Ralph the leather belts, he's sitting at home in his Miami mansion, hanging out, nobody knows his name, but Puffy's calling him to get stuff made for Sean John, So the shine jobs aren't necessarily the ones that are out in the front where, you'll be on the cover of Vibe, but you can be on the cover of Black Enterprise.
And I have 2 words to add to that: vitamin water. Look at Coca-Cola, and vitamin water started out as a small brand and then gets acquired. And I know everybody's heard the whole 50 Cent and how he benefited from being an investor in that. But what I would challenge people to do, who are thinking about starting a business, or young people who are coming out of school, and this is the best of times and the worst of times. You're coming out of school, the job market is tough. Well, if you can't find that ideal job, spend that time to think about, if you have those entrepreneurial cravings, to figure out, what is something different that I can do? What is something that I can use my skill sets to put into that maybe a Coca-Cola or a larger company would use me as a supplier? That is a great point that Ivy just made about the shine jobs. I like to be behind the scenes, in terms of being on the HR IT side. When I say I work in HR for Coca-Cola, 9 times out of 10, people think I'm a recruiter, and I'm not. I work in IT on the back end of the career portal. But that still is a very important function, and it's a function that's not going away. If we think about, from job stability, if I want to stay in corporate America, companies are always going to have to hire. Recruiters, let's just face, they come and go. When volumes are down, the first people to get cut are HR people, and usually in that function. But whether we're hiring 2 people or 200, someone has to manage that system where those resumes come into. So it doesn't always have to be the front and center job or the front and center idea that is going to, in the back end, be more fulfilling and also financially rewarding. So I think those are great points.
And I just want to add, a lot of apprehension that small businesses have is, how can I be a supplier of Ralph Lauren? I'm a small mom and pop. How can I make the quantity that they need? And how can I capitalize that? And a lot of times, if you just build your infrastructure to where you can scale up, when you secure that contract, you can actually get the financing that you need based off of the contract that you've secured with that supplier. So don't let the ability to get the capital to meet the demand of that contract be an inhibitor.
And the other thing to keep in mind is the need for flexibility. The opportunity may not be here. Opportunity could be with Coca-Cola in South Africa, where they're big. I saw them everywhere when I went to the World Cup. So that's also something to keep in mind, and that, you know, if the opportunity is not here, you've got to start looking in other locations because you could be missing out. I want to take some questions. If there's anyone that has any questions, please just raise your hand. Ma'am?
There was some mention earlier from one of the panelists, I'm sorry, I forget your name, about a way to attend grad school for free. I'd like to know more information about that.
Has anyone ever heard of the Consortium for Graduate Study in Management? cgsm.org. Write it down, cgsm.org. So the consortium is a group of schools that have gotten together to basically made a decision probably, I think it was like 10 years ago, that they wanted to increase diversity in corporate America. And one of the ways to increase diversity in corporate America was actually to create more of a pipeline of MBAs, people with advanced degrees to be able to go into those roles in corporate America so that you wouldn't only go in as a manager, as an assistant, a coordinator, but you could come out with an MBA and actually start in a management position in mid-level management and higher. So it's an organization that promotes diversity, but it doesn't have to be about being Black, being Native American, being Latino. Anyone who's interested in being able to express how you convey diversity, diversity of thought, diversity of action, then you actually can apply to the consortium. There are many member schools, including NYU, including Berkeley Haas, including the University of Wisconsin, including the University of Michigan. I mean, there's a huge number of schools involved, and you make one application, you pay one fee, you do a little bit of extra work because you do have to have an interview up front before you actually get waitlisted or get in. So you do a couple of extra applications, maybe a few extra essays. But what's really important is that once you get into the consortium, through the consortium, you go to school for free. The consortium funds it for 2 years. If you maintain a B average, which is pretty easy to do in grad school, it's only 2 years, you just got to get it together. If you maintain that average, you get full tuition for both years of your grad school. They also take a small number of law school candidates. It's mostly an MBA-based program. There is a small number of law school candidates, but 2 years, free school, you come out, you owe no one anything. The best thing about it also is that once you get in, the consortium provides you with a significant number of resources like resume preps, you get interviews, you get a career fair at the consortium orientation before you even get on campus. So when I started at NYU, I showed up day one, I already had a job offer for the summer from PepsiCo, sorry, in their strategy department. So I could actually take my pick of the job offers I wanted to get on campus because I knew I already had a bird in the hand. So it's a great program. You have a lot of networking that goes on with a lot of different corporations. It's sponsored by IBM. Hewlett-Packard is involved. I mean, there's so many companies. So cgsm.org. Like, learn about it, figure out if it's right for you. 2 years, free school.
I'm in the Supplier Diversity professional world for the airport in Indianapolis, and one of the things that I do see is missing, and maybe the panel could touch on it, is the concept of kind of the mentoring and protéging aspect. A lot of entrepreneurs that I run across, they really don't know what they don't know.
Oh, gosh.
And so it's adding that to them. What we do is we're pushing our prime contractors and our larger vendors to work with the entrepreneurs to help them grow their business to the point to where they can supply, 100,000 belts or whatever it may be. And so I just was curious about what efforts you all might be doing in those areas as far as helping those entrepreneurs grow.
That's a very good question, and that's a question I hear a lot from young folks looking for a mentor. In fact, a good business mentor is actually in Indianapolis, a fellow named Bill Mays, who you probably know. I know him well. But anyone want to tackle that? That's a very pertinent question for this crowd.
It's an issue that we run into a lot with the entrepreneurs I meet as I travel the country with the Empowerment Experiment. And it's It's very, very difficult, and I think it, as I said before, this whole thing about Black business failure rates, I've learned in the experiment it has not so much to do with racism, with just how we are so unprepared as business people. Because of the demise, the plight of Black business that has occurred over the past few decades, it's not a part of our culture to be a business owner. I mean, when you think honestly, I mean, it may be a stereotype, but when you think of an immigrant, an Asian or someone of Middle Eastern descent, or an Indian actual Indian from Asia, you think of a small business owner. When you think of Black people in the community, you're thinking of the people who work at those companies or workers. It's part of their culture to own businesses. It's not part of ours. So we don't even have that training just in our families and in our way of life. So I meet all these entrepreneurs, and they come to me with great ideas and think that that's enough. You can't just have a great idea. There's no business plan, they don't have any, there's no team, there's no marketing, all that kind of stuff. They just say, why can't I be successful? I came up with this great idea, and it could be the next big thing. And I see the failure in less than 6 months. So I'm always pushing folks, if that guy would have came to someone like me, or anyone here, and we could have helped them cultivate that idea and helped him with his application or interview before he would reach out to the Indianapolis Airport Supplier Diversity, he'd probably have a contract. It's so much more important that you have folks who are established, even if it doesn't have to be an entrepreneur, in the corporate world, just have some networks, have been around to connect to first, polish everything for you, get the lingo, get the nomenclature, get some networks, get some names that you can drop. That's the biggest thing in the world. And then you can walk in the door with your great idea.
So find the mentor before you find the opportunity.
Find the mentor before your idea, even. Get the idea and then get the mentor.
There's actually ways that you can do this relatively easily and painlessly. You can come find me. That might not be as painless and easy. If you know anyone, I think people sometimes think that in order to find a mentor, the mentor has to be in the business space that I want to be in. So if I want to open a salami store, I have to go find a person who's opened a salami store. That's not true. If you find anyone who has run a successful business or a successful piece of a business, someone who's been in corporate America, who's owned a P&L, a profit and loss statement, who has managed people, who has own that operation, that person can be a mentor to you on any business level, because that person can help you figure out, okay, do I have enough capital to do this? What's my operational plan? What's my consumer base? So it doesn't have to be someone who has done exactly what you do. The second thing is there are resources out there in terms of the Small Business Administration, where there's a program called SCORE, for example, in New York. I'm not sure if it's national, but it's definitely in New York. Yes, where retired CEOs will spend time with you and talk to you about your business plan for free. That's right, free. So they will talk about your business plan. They will meet with you on a fairly regular basis to talk through like what your next decision making is. They won't make the decisions for you, of course, and they'll probably give you lots of homework to do. But you actually can talk to them about that. The other thing that I would suggest that people don't normally do, a lot of grad school programs have programs where they have a consulting group or consulting club within those grad schools that actually do external consulting. So NYU has one, and we used to partner with 5 or 6 other schools, Fordham University, et cetera, who also did it. And basically for free, again, you have MBAs who are in their classes who have come from, I had 7 years of operational experience before I got my MBA. So I had consulting experience, et cetera, but these kids will put together, not kids, they're grown people, but they will put a team together and actually work for you. There's a program that we did for NYU within Harlem where we worked with the Harlem small business groups to actually pull together like Setapani, which is a local restaurant, different plumber organizations, different daycare centers, teaching them how to use different financial tools so that they could actually track their finances and understand whether they were on budget or not. It was everything from building really large-scale plans for Alvin Ailey to small things like helping that plumber put together a marketing plan. So you can go and get free resources from people who are happy to give them to you because they're learning while they're doing it, and they're also sometimes getting credit for school. But either way, it's free to you, and you can take your business plan. The other thing I would also suggest is those schools sometimes have business plan competitions where really wonderful executives will come in and review your business plan for you and give you really structured feedback. So there's lots of free ways to get advice on your business plan, on your current business, on how to take a startup from a small business to a medium-sized business. There's some free resources out there that I don't think as many people take advantage of.
And when it comes to mentors, you don't, and I said mentors with an S for a reason. You don't just have to have one mentor. I wear multiple hats. I have multiple mentors. So I have a mentor who is a VP for Microsoft. I have a mentor who I met 10 years ago at an event like this, who I didn't know at that time, but she's had her business now maybe 15 years, and she actually came up through the ranks of Coca-Cola. So look at me now. It's almost like I'm following her footsteps, but we've been friends, and she's been a mentor to me, and now I kind of can mentor her because she wants to pursue writing. So also mentor relationships, don't just think, oh, I keep asking this person for help. She gets energy from me. You know, I mean, she's been in the business for some time, so you don't have to think that a mentor is just somebody that I'm going to gain. Think about how you can help that mentor. You may be know more about technology, or you may know more about a certain area. Again, they don't have to have the same background as you, but I just encourage you to look at events like this. Find people that you can connect with. Those can become mentors. Use your alumni networks at your schools. If you're a member of an organization that's a professional organization, a sorority, a fraternity, use those organizations to reach out to mentors, and use social networking. People laugh about it, but there are some real sites out there like LinkedIn.com. That is not a Facebook-ish type of Twitter. That is a site that people actually use to connect and meet people. I've met people through LinkedIn. But you can also meet people. I meet fellow writers on Twitter. I meet fellow writers on Facebook. So use those, and you can even have a mentorship where it is a virtual relationship where you can kind of encourage each other. Also surround yourself with like-minded people. So these may not be mentors, but surround yourself with others who are in the same struggle as you in terms of either building a business or in their career, they're trying to move in the same type of path, because you'll find that you'll share the same struggles, you share the same passions, and you'll be able to help each other along the way. So that would be my feedback on mentors and finding colleagues.
All right, let's get to the next question, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Neka Uzo, and I have a first question is for Ms. Grant. I'm in corporate America right now, and as in most large companies, there's kind of a trajectory as to which way you go. And I'm wondering, how were you able to get into the international marketplace? Did you quit your job, or were you able to fit that into your career path? And then the second question is primarily for Ms. Murray and Ms. Anderson. I'm wondering, you both have two strong businesses on the side, or side projects. At what point did the Empowerment Project, Ms. Anderson, become your forefront or your major job, or when did you switch over? And Ms. Murray, do you believe that you will switch over or leave corporate America behind? Thank you.
Okay, let's take the first one.
In terms of how do you get a global opportunity, I asked for it. That was pretty much it. I think that I have found that at McKinsey, for example, there's a very small number of African Americans at McKinsey. When I joined the firm in 2005, there were 46 African Americans globally. Let that sink in on you for a second.
Goodness.
And the interesting thing is that, I spent a little time in Singapore. I saw a lot of Africans there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
From the continent of Africa, but very few African Americans. In fact, I didn't find any.
So if you want an opportunity, many of the African Americans who were there had not ever traveled, outside of the U.S. It's not something that my parents never took me on a trip to Europe when I was 5. So it's just never something that was in my, my background and my culture. But I asked for it. I saw my colleagues, a lot of my male colleagues, were going off to wonderful locations and getting great opportunities. And I asked one of them, well, how did you get to go, at the time it was actually Singapore, how did you get to go to Singapore? He said, I asked. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, so the next time we had a career development conversation, I said, well, I'd like to do something outside of the U.S. I'd really like to learn another marketplace. And immediately, I was in Australia. So it wasn't like there was because a lot of companies have a hard time when you have people who have families, kids who want to stay in the US, finding someone who wants to go and spend time in another country. So it actually was a pull situation that I didn't even realize. I thought I had to be special and someone had to tag me, but in fact, I just had to tag myself.
Well, one of the challenges is find a place to get your hair done. Always a problem.
Learn to braid your own hair.
Now, the second question is more along the lines of, a lot of entrepreneurs go through this. They start off, they have this as a side, as sort of a, it could be an extra income, could be more of a passion. When do you realize that this is something that I'm going to focus on?
I'll be quick. It wasn't a professional decision for me. I was doing independent contracting work, consulting, being half mommy. So I kind of knew we had made a family decision that I wasn't ever going to be full-time corporate thing again. When the empowerment experiment really took off, it's about my passion. It's a cause that my family really believes in. The community has buoyed us up, and I've become a leader in this movement. It's a no-choice proposition for me now. I won't give up on this. So it's one of those, it's just a life calling. And the nugget I want you to get out of that, though, is if you find something like that that's all-consuming, you can't start off worrying about the money. We don't make any money from the empowerment experiment, but I know it's coming. I know that as we keep doing this and we start building the infrastructure, it's a sacrifice for our family right now to keep this movement alive. But we know that opportunities are going to present itself, and the community is going to lift us up, and that we are going to be able to, support our family and still continue the project. So if you find something like that that just really stirs you, don't leave it alone because of, you don't have the immediate financial gain. Be smart about it, be strategic, and you will find an economic opportunity there, especially if you're able to market it right. And that's what has happened with the empowerment experiment. There's limitless possibilities for me now because we were, we tailored it as a very academic-oriented, family-oriented movement instead of, one that's, militant or racist. So it gives us more credibility and gives us more opportunities to do things in the long term. So,
Tiffany, you want to weigh in on that?
Yes, I love that question. Because it's something that I've battled with, over the last decade that I've been in corporate America and doing these things on the side, other ventures and things of that nature. The passion is not going anywhere in me, and I think that it was fate that I met my mentor who left Coca-Cola, and started her own business and now has been in business 14 years. So to answer your question, yes, my plan is to eventually pursue my passions full time. For me, it's a different personal situation. I'm not married, I don't have kids, so for me, if I have to eat ramen noodles, I can eat ramen noodles. If I go through that stage of trying to build up my business and build up clientele, I can do that now where it won't have, kind of the impact on anyone but myself. I think if I went through life and I stayed in corporate America and I continued to do things on the side, eventually I think I would regret not taking that opportunity. I think the biggest thing that holds us back is fear. One thing that I do have to my advantage, you could look at it two ways. I could have come out of college and just pursued those passions, but now I have kind of a cushion. I've been able to aggressively save. I've tried to be financially responsible. I was blessed enough to have a scholarship to go to college, so I didn't have the loans and things of that nature. So I have my debt, to a manageable, to a mortgage. And if I have to work at Barnes & Noble part-time while I'm pursuing these passions to pay bills, I can do that. So it is something that I'm strongly considering, and in my kind of goals in terms of when I want to do it, I'm coming up to that threshold of having to make a decision. And corporate America will be there. That's what I tell people who are now even out of jobs or who are pursuing an entrepreneurial venture and thinking, oh, but what if what happens if this doesn't work out? Well, if it doesn't work out, corporate America will be there. And you have to believe in yourself. If there's one thing I can impart to the audience is know your core skills and believe in those skills and believe that you're marketable. You're your own best advertisement. So even if you go out here and you have an idea and maybe it works, it has its peak and maybe you leave that business, or you can go back and say, hey, this is even makes me more marketable to a company in some instances to say, I've started my own brand. If say you want to go and do brand marketing for Coca-Cola or another company, I've done this for myself. I've found success. And I think for me, the fact that I found success doing it part-time has encouraged me to say, I need to try full-time and see what happens from there.
One more quick little thing,
Okay,
because I actually
want to hear from Brandon also,
Okay.
because he's actually taken the plunge. Let the brother speak a little bit.
Okay, go ahead, and then I'll.
No, I was just going to say, I've actually launched an unsuccessful business. This is actually my second time starting this company. I did it too soon. I didn't plan properly, because I am married with kids, so I have responsibilities, and so there was a lot of apprehension. But I stepped out without having all of my ducks in a row, all of my resources lined up. But actually, it made me more marketable to go back into corporate America, and I actually went back in at a higher level than I would have if I had just stayed the corporate track. But with some family planning and really taking it seriously, really putting my business plan together, really getting advice of mentors, I stepped out again on faith, and we're still going, and it's been extremely successful. So don't look at it if you do launch and it's unsuccessful. That's not the end of it. You have to learn from every experience and take that, and the next time you go out, I look at it as if it's not bad if you don't learn from it. It's only bad if you don't learn from it. Everything can be an opportunity. It's just a matter of how you look at the situation.
The only other thing I wanted to add was that for some people, and I think it's a great idea to have the corporate track as part of your entrepreneurial plan. Maybe just make the plan, let me try to be in the corporate. You can earn potential clients that way, build up your networks, just develop the nice corporate wisdom. That's the kind of stuff that is transferable everywhere. When I talk to young people all the time, I say, I'm not telling you don't do corporate. First of all, and just in terms of the empowerment experiment, we need a lot of people who believe in black business to work in the corporate sectors so that these companies will partner with black businesses and sponsor our organizations like CBCF. So that I will never tell you not to pursue corporate, but think of it as part of your long-term plan. So let's say you want to be a consultant, or you want to be an IT expert, or you want to, like one of my companies, she has her own cosmetics company. She got her feet wet working for the corporate sector in that industry, and then she launched her own company in that industry, and she's doing very well. So please don't pursue corporate and then think about it as your launching pad to become an entrepreneur.
Okay, let's get to the next question.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Melanie Davis. I just finished law school and took the bar in Georgia. I'm also a licensed real estate broker, and before I went to law school, I did that in addition to being an admissions counselor. So I've always had a side business. But, when I started law school in 2007, law firms were hiring, but now they're laying off. And I took, that time to go back to school, and now I'm in the situation where I'm looking for a job. I'm from Chicago, so I'm doing an out-of-state job search, in addition, in a market where I'm competing with attorneys with years of experience. And so I guess my question is, I didn't go to law school to be a real estate lawyer. I wanted to be, an entertainment lawyer, and I still do. But even that field is difficult to get into. So I guess my question is, with my background as a real estate broker, and now I'll be licensed at the end of October in Georgia, would you recommend starting a business? Like, I guess with the economy, I could be a foreclosure attorney or a bankruptcy attorney and make money off that, but that's not really what I want to do. And a lot of times when you're an attorney, you get pigeonholed into what field you start in. And so I don't want to be like the foreclosure attorney, the bankruptcy attorney, and then I'm like, well, no, I can do other stuff. But would you recommend starting a business that, in the event that I can't find a job?
That's a pertinent question, because there's a lot of folks with the job force and the jobs scene the way it is right now. People coming out of school are competing with folks that have been in the business 20 years who, because of the situation, will work for a lot less than they would have gotten paid 5 years ago. So, very good question. What's the advice?
I'm confused. So you're a real estate attorney now? Oh, you're a real estate broker? Gotcha. So now you've got real estate and law, and you were trying to figure out how to end up in entertainment.
Right, so
Have you ever done any sort of legal advisory for small entertainment businesses? Like, have you thought about it? Because, I mean, well, this is a weird transition. My side gig is I make films. And one of the things that we needed immediately when we started making the latest film that we had was an attorney. And I would have hired you if I had looked at your resume and stuff. Networking first. No, but I mean, there's lots of small companies like ours who had a budget. I mean, we had a budget of about $40,000 for our film, so we had a budget to pay someone to do it. And it wouldn't have been a long-term assignment for you, but it might have opened some doors because now we're going to do another film. So there's lots of you can look on Mandy.com, for example, which is an entertainment website that, well, actually, you want to be in Atlanta, though. Well, it's an entertainment website where companies and people put their services out there, but also put, okay, here's my production. I'm doing a production for this and that. And people oftentimes would pinged us and said, hey, you know, I'm a legal attorney for this. I do that. And we actually picked up some of those services. So if you want to be in entertainment law, I would actually suggest you try to find some entertainment clients.
Yeah, and being in Atlanta, it is a tough market. I have a lot of my sorority and close girlfriends are lawyers in Atlanta. So I've heard kind of similar, you know, the perils of the, you know, Austin and Bird laying off or different firms laying off. And what I would suggest is, yeah, if you can kind of do independent work. I have a girlfriend who's doing that now. She started out wanting to do entertainment law, but now she does, you know, more family law or things of that nature, or even some like the accident law. I mean, because you have to pay bills. I mean, the bottom line is at some level you have to pay bills. I always say, for me, if something happened with me and I had to go back and do IT documentation, it's not the sexiest work, but it's work that I know how to do, and it's something that I'm good at. So while you do that, you pursue these channels that Ivy just mentioned. You try to get connected. You may have to go and do something, you know, as my mentor calls it, pro bono or low bono. You know, you may have to go do some low bono work while you're, you know, kind of have some more bread and butter coming in through a real estate law channel or something like that. But kind of learn to juggle. You know, sounds like you have a great arsenal of skills. So in some ways that can, and I've been called, you know, you do so much, you know, you do have to try to channel that into, okay, how can I translate this into something that's going to make money, or how can I channel this into a career? But use that to your advantage, the fact that you have, you know, different areas that you've studied in, but at the same time pursue your primary passion, which sounds like entertainment law, and get that network. I mean, in Atlanta, the one thing that has benefited me is to grow my network, and it takes time, and it takes, you know, tough skin, and you just have to continue to add people to your Rolodex. And again, don't always think about what you can get from them. Think about what you can also give back, because when people can look at you as a valued resource, what I've found is they're more likely to help you in your endeavors. If you're just somebody that, she's calling, who is that? You know, you don't want that reputation. You want the reputation of the relationship benefits them as well.
The other thing I would say is tell people you're an entertainment lawyer. I didn't get that from the story that you gave. So tell people you're an entertainment lawyer.
Yeah, and it comes out, it's not an either or.
Yeah.
You can focus on both things.
You can tell somebody else you're a real estate lawyer. No, but if you deal in contracts, basically entertainment law, it's not all that glamorous. It's contract law. Basically, you're going to look over my contracts with all of my different vendors and all the agents who said they're going to represent me in my licensing deal with HBO, and you're going to review that contract in depth, and you're going to tell me, okay, you're going to need to change this. They're taking away your rights here. You need digital asset, like you're going to need to tell people that. So if you have a set of skills that are contract-based, and maybe you've never actually had an entertainment client, you have to speak that into being. You have to actually tell people you're in entertainment law. So when you actually go pursue that network in Atlanta, and there's so much of an entertainment industry in Atlanta, you have to tell people when you meet them that you're a contract lawyer and you do entertainment clients. And people will go, oh, I have an entertainment client.
Up front, and then we'll get to the lady in back.
How are y'all doing today?
Good.
My name's Evan. I'm a civil engineering major at Florida A&M University. And I caught some discussion earlier on in the seminar about businesses coming up through STEM and how there's a lot of money in that area now. I particularly had a question. I believe you answered something on that, Mr. Comer. how would you go about acquiring lenders or investors or just money for starting up a business if it was in through the STEM program? If you had any tips or any like possible mentors who would have any viable information on acquiring something like that.
Okay. What is your area again?
Civil engineering.
Civil engineering?
Yeah, civil engineering.
Okay. Well, first thing I would say is go to the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act website. There's a lot of information out there. You can just Google STEM funding, and you'll see several resources that'll come up. But when you go into your lender, the most important thing is to have your plan already together. You need to make them understand why they should take a risk or investing in you. The other thing is you're going to need to bring some amount of equity to the table. 100% financing nowadays just doesn't exist. So you definitely want to reach out to either someone in the field or even family and friends and help sell them on your idea. But it's hard to sell someone on an idea when it's not complete. So once you put your business plan together, you can start getting your angel investors. That way you can turn around and go to the lenders. And I'll be more than happy to give you my information and help you navigate through that process.
Yeah, the first thing to remember is that banks are in the risk business.
Exactly.
And the more that you can show them that this is low risk, the better. They want to see equity. They want to see skin in the game. They want to see you have other investors lined up, and as well as a solid business plan. You provide those things, and your chances are 1,000% better than if you just walk in with this great idea.
Right.
Ma'am?
Hi, I'm actually glad that you mentioned this side business about film because I'm a creative, but I also run a business and we do creative projects, whether it be books, film, creating educational products for media, books, film. But my challenge has always been balancing the creative with the business and putting on a business hat when that's not necessarily sort of my background. Even though I went to school for marketing, I started writing very soon after college. So I guess my question is, how do you, or what are some tips for creatives to either, become more business savvy, or one of the things that I've been trying to do is partner with a business manager, but that's been difficult too. But what are some tips for creatives or for creative businesses?
Yeah, there's a lot of people with great ideas, but they don't know cash flow. When you don't know cash flow, you're in trouble. It's a very good question.
I actually always tell people to start out with the basics. How does this business make money? And every time you make a decision, ask yourself, is this going to make me money or is this going to cost me money? And how do I manage those two things? I've always been the business person. I mean, I had a singing group when I was a kid, and I used to make little marketing plans. I was always the business person who was trying to figure out how to sell us something. So I've always been the business piece of that creative side. I was also going to suggest, but it sounds like you've already done it, like reaching out to someone who is better at that than you. I think you have to always kind of realize your strengths, right? If you're strong in the creative side and you're not so great in the business side, find someone who can help to supplement your skill set. Because I tell people all the time, you're never going to be great at the things that you're bad at. You'll only be adequate at them ever, right? You can be exceptional at the things that you're good at. You can take that talent that you have and become exceptional at it. But if it's something that you're actually bad at it, you only will ever get that skill set up to adequate because it'll just make you crazy. So if you can find someone who you can partner with who can supplement that skill set, people usually find me. So one of the people who came to me with this latest movie idea is a guy who I went to college with who's a creative. He's a writer, he's an editor, he's a director, and he doesn't know a spreadsheet from a hole in the wall. And literally, when we were talking about doing taxes for the movie, he was looking at me like, taxes? We have to pay taxes, So I'm usually the person who comes in and helps that person actually say, your creative vision is great the way it is, but here's how we have to tweak it so we can afford it. But you might not have to find that person. I know you haven't found them yet, but you might have to find that person who kind of personality-wise matches you, but is able to bring you a skill set that you don't have. But also the basics, at least learn the basics. Understand how your business makes money. Understand if you are actually profitable, because many people make money but don't realize how much it costs them to service each of their customers. So you can have lots of customers that are giving you a little bit of money and you're thinking, wow, I have a business here. But if each of those customers actually costs you more in time, resources, et cetera, to service them than actually they're giving you, you don't really have a business. You're not profitable. You got revenue, you got no profit.
A lot of companies have gone out of business going after contracts that they fulfilled but not profitably.
Exactly. So
but that goes down to the mentorship as well. If you find a mentor that's on the business side, if they understand business, they can put together and help you with the financials, whether it's a widget, or a piece of art or whatever. So it's really important that you identify somebody that that can serve as your mentor, that can help you with the business side of things.
But be careful that you also learn enough about it to manage that process, because just because you're not good in it doesn't mean you're able to disavow it and allow somebody else to hold it for you.
At the end of the day, it is your business.
If it's your business, at least know the basics of learning a basic spreadsheet. Nobody's asking you to do a discounted cash flow model. I'm not trying to get you to, calculate the risk rates. I just want you to look at a basic spreadsheet and be able to know in your business if you're profitable or not.
Let's get to the next question.
Okay. I've got a quick question also. Right now, the black community is being hit really hard with these multi-level marketing schemes with $150 girdles. And
now? I heard about that 20 years ago.
It's still there. Well, I wanted to get the panel's opinion because I believe a lot of people, as they're trying to become entrepreneurs, are first attracted to these types of opportunities so that people can find out what they think about.
I know that, and I'll let everybody weigh in, I know that if it's sort of a franchise model, there's an International Franchise Association, and they will tell you who is in good standing and who's got a lot of complaints filed against them. So that's a good start. There's obviously the Better Business Bureau and all kinds of things.
You can also just Google it. I mean, people have come to me with all sorts of crazy stuff.
The digital age is wonderful.
Yeah, and then I Googled it and found all these complaints about people who had lost money on this business, and I was like, just read, just Google them.
And I think, even though in Atlanta, people will jokingly say, oh, you have a side hustle, you have a side gig. I mean, I think Body Magic is more of a hustle, okay? If you're out selling Body Magic, there's probably people out there making money off of it, but is it, to me, I mean, it's a way of making money. It's not the corporate track, but I don't know, I would say really think about what it is that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about Body Magic, sell Body Magic like, you create it. Go create, but look at, okay, I'll bring up Sarah Blakely. Okay, instead of slinging Body Magic, come up with Spanx. Okay, so this woman went out and cut off some pantyhose and made Spanx. And it's like this millionaire, So think beyond the multi-level marketing. It is easy to kind of look at it and think, oh, I can go out here and sling some Body Magic and I'll make, $1,000 a month or whatever they promise you that you're going to make. But maybe go and do that and use it as market research and then create your own Body Magic or create your own, Spanx and take it to that level, because that's, to me, is true entrepreneurship, and that's what what we were talking about earlier in terms of what's the innovative idea that when you think of an African American, you don't think that we would own that business. Spanx, that would be I would have loved for a sister to have come up with Spanx.
Yeah, instead of kicking the money up to somebody else, you're kicking it up to yourself.
Yep,
right. That would have been nice.
Let's get to the next question.
Good afternoon, I think it is now. I wanted to say thank you guys, because every atom in my body is jumping up and down. First, I wanted to confirm the young lady over there, which I think she is gone now, but, oh, no, you're not. Immediately when I first got to Atlanta, I'm sorry, my name is Laverne Key. I work in Atlanta, Georgia as a corporate events planner for Autotrader.com. And when I first got to Atlanta, I bottomed out in entertainment PR and hated it, so bless you for loving it. And I used to tell people, oh, I want to be a professional event planner. I want to be a professional event planner. And they're like, oh, that's a nice dream. And the first day that I said, I am a professional event planner, I got 3 job offers the next day. It was crazy. So speaking into existence really does work. With the mentors, I had a really bad experience one time. And you go to the mentor and you have this gentleman's credit, you don't know what you don't know. So my question is, how much should you bring to your mentor already? You said it should be beyond an idea, but what do I take to you? I know some of the research that I do, I attend the places of what I want to pursue. So I go there, I look at all different ones, the ones I don't like, the ones I really do like, the ones that I don't find interesting, but I'm still pulling research and understanding how I'm taking that in as a consumer, but not really, I guess, like Ivy said, learning my market or other people who would be like-minded like me. So how much do you take beyond, does my business make money, and how much would it cost to service each one of my customers?
I know one thing that I could say is that it's a relationship. So it's not like, you don't approach your mentor just for one thing. Right. It should be a very much a dialogue, a continuing dialogue that when you first start out, you may be talking about more ideas, and then it could continue to, should I start looking at hiring employees? Then it could continue, should I start expanding or think about acquiring this other company? So it can really run the gamut, but please.
Can I just ask, what was the problem you had with your mentor before?
So because you didn't know a lot about it at that time, you were the door was kind of closed on you. Right. I was shut down. That sounds like a bad mentor.
I was going to say, that just sounds like a bad person.
That was just a bad mentor, because that's not how the relationship is supposed to be.
Yeah, like if she wants you to come with, all the right answers, then what's her role? So I think you just picked you got a raw deal on a bad situation.
Bad luck.
It's just like a dating relationship. I mean,
sometimes they're busted.
Yeah, you're gonna meet people, and right, you have to cut them loose. I mean, you have to cut certain people loose, and you build that trust. I talked about my mentor, who I met at an event like this 10 years ago. I mean, and we've had ups and downs. Nothing that was a blowout, but that's just a relationship, And you're gonna talk about different things. You're gonna agree. You're gonna disagree. But over the course of a decade, I've built trust with this. I mean, I trust her. I didn't go start out. I didn't know anything anyway. Then I was fresh out of college, but I didn't tell her like every single idea. But now, I was thinking the other day, I was like, she knows, maybe a little too much, because I'll tell her I have these ideas and say, oh, I'm doing this and I did this. I started this Twitter account. But you have to build that trust.
Yeah, and a relationship, it evolves.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just sounds like you had bad luck the first time around, because that person clearly didn't really want to be a mentor, or maybe they only wanted to speak with someone that was at a certain level. But whatever, it was just that was bad luck of the draw.
Find somebody
Let's get to the
else.
next question. We've only got time to take a few more because I want everyone to give their closing comments.
Ms. Anderson and Mr. Hughes, earlier in this panel, you spoke about big companies like Walgreens and Walmart who say that there are lots of services for minorities in janitorial areas, but maybe the shine jobs, but not necessarily IT services. And I understand and can see in working in government that there are a lot of opportunities for vets, minority women, but I don't know how to like hone in and find where those opportunities are so that I can begin to prepare myself and come up with a strategy for marketing the skill sets that I do have and that I have learned. And so how can I begin to focus on finding these opportunities so that I can prepare my business plans in these strategies?
It all depends. If you're talking about the government or you're talking about...
I'm talking corporate America.
Oh, you're talking about corporate?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know each company does have, well, these days, they do have a supplier diversity link that they can point you to, or it's just a phone call, or you can Google, Pepsi supplier diversity. So that's a good start. Anyone else have something to add?
Yeah, I definitely do the research. A lot of times, the entrepreneurs I encounter, they do go to the website, they do go to the conferences, and maybe they're in janitorial supply, or maybe they're an event planner or something like that. We have a lot of Black people in those industries. It would behoove them to start off the other way. And a lot of those supplier diversity sites do give you the different categories of business opportunities. So, I mean, like with McDonald's, I did a lot of work with McDonald's supplier diversity. You could be the plastic top supplier or something like that. And they really do go into detail into the different categories that they are willing to branch out. So you really should start that way. It's a lot of work, But if you go to the companies that have supplier diversity sites and the ones that actually break down the categories of industries they're willing to partner in, find one, not janitorial, but think of the ones where there may not be a lot of minority representation, and it really increases your chances of getting that gig. A lot of these companies really want to do work with us, and some of them are beholden by stereotypes. So for you to come in with a pleasant surprise and offer them a service or a skill set that they haven't seen, they never saw come from someone with your kind of face, really increases your opportunity of getting that gig. Yeah, so do the research first. And when you go to the conferences, talk to those guys. Say, you know, just be real frank with them. A lot of them really just want to help, and they're not used to getting those kind of questions. They're used to you saying, I do this, can I get an opportunity? Instead, ask them, what exactly are you looking for? What are some places where you haven't been able to find some vendors or suppliers? It's really just a matter of doing research, because they have the resources and they want to do business with you.
And they want to be able to tout success stories.
Right.
They love being, Johnson Control, they love being able to show their suppliers, their minority suppliers that are doing, you know, $50, $70 million a year in business. They love that stuff. I get calls from them all the time. Ma'am.
Hello, my name's Imani Stutley. I'm currently a senior, and I'll be graduating in December. And I wanted to know if the panelists can touch upon the whole wealth, debt management. I wasn't as lucky to get all my school funded by scholarships, so I do have a great deal of debt on the undergraduate level. It's manageable, not too much, but still, as I basically press upon entering into the world, I don't necessarily want to choose a career I don't want to do or a job I don't want to do. I want to do something I'm passionate about, but I still have obligations, and I have loans that will be due in June.
So your question really is about managing that debt, or is it?
I don't know what else I could do.
That's a tough one.
The first thing, you know, if you do want to follow your passions, and it's not giving you the type of income and you're worried about your loans, there are programs. You know, your loans can go into forbearance. You know, so don't just think, okay, my loans are immediately due, I have to make a final decision that could impact your entire career path. But once you decide what you're going to do, you definitely want to put a personal financial plan together. I approach my personal finances just like I do my business. And you want to make sure that when you're deciding, you know, how much is going to go into your retirement plan, you know, if your company has a 401k, I mean, all of this should be a part of your financial plan. And don't start putting so much away that you don't maintain liquidity. So allocate, you know, if your check's $2,000, you know, how much is going towards, you know, my student loans, how much am I putting in my rainy day fund? Because the most important thing is to make sure that you start building enough of a cash reserve to sustain you in the event that something should happen. I think we start putting all of our money in illiquid investments and things where it's tied up.
And when you need money, you can't get to it.
Yeah, you can't get to it. So make that an important, you know, part of your strategy. They use what we call an envelope approach. I don't know if you're familiar with that, to where you can really track where your money's going. And so for eating out, you know, you have an envelope, and every time you get paid, you put a little bit of money in that, and you just kind of follow that approach so that you can really track what you're doing. We waste a lot of money, and we just don't realize it. So
especially in our community.
Especially in our community. You know, eating out, I mean,
I could talk 20 minutes on depreciating assets.
Yeah. So it's just, you just have to have a strategic approach to it. You're not alone. There are a lot of people on the same boat. But as long as you have that plan and you stick to it and make it and adjust it along the way, you know, you'll be fine.
And I just want to touch on, you were talking about you have some things that you're passionate about, but maybe they're not going to, it sounded like you were alluding to, maybe they won't make the income that you need to tackle the debt. Is that something that you're concerned about?
It's more so just have a loud mouth. Oh, okay. It's more so for me, I want to eventually start my own marketing research consulting firm, but I want to go on and pursue and get my Master's of Public Policy and a master's degree in demographics to build up my knowledge so I can actually pursue that area. But in the meantime, I'm graduating in December. I could start a full-time job, I could start a part-time job, or I could go right through to grad school. So it's kind of balancing all those options.
It sounds like her case is a little complicated. Why don't we, because in the interest of time, we're running short on time, you guys are going to be available after the session. Why don't we, in fact, you should probably speak to Brandon. I think y'all need some time together and work it out. I want to get to the last question, then I want folks here to make some closing comments so we can wrap this up. There's a question over here, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rashonda Humphreys, and Tiffany, I want to talk to you because we have a mutual friend.
Yes.
My question is for Brandon. Just like most of you, well, actually, all of you, most of you up there, I too am in corporate America. I'm an engineer by trade. I do consulting, and I've always been the kind of person that always has something on the side, always. My latest side thing is real estate. A few years ago, I attended the CBC and was very inspired by a lot of the black entrepreneurs that, you know, went into real estate of some sort. So the last couple of years, that's what I've been doing, and I've been fortunate enough
So you're in real estate?
Yeah, to purchase
My
property.
condolences.
But I need some
It's
more
been rough.
money.
You need some more money?
I don't use my money to purchase properties. I've been lucky enough to find money, but I think I've run out of, you know, the one area that I've been able to get the money from. Now I need more money. So I just need to know the venues and ways of getting more money. I've been purchasing properties in Michigan. That's where I'm from. And I
There's
know
a lot
that,
of distressed properties in Michigan.
but the ones I'm buying aren't distressed.
Now, are you doing-
So I've been finding some really good deals, but I need more money without using my own money.
Are you talking about residential or commercial properties?
Residential for now.
In Michigan.
In Michigan.
In I can get your card and we can talk later, but I just need
That might be another long conversation. Actually, I want to sit on that one. I want to hear how you solve it. Let's go to some closing comments here. And then, as I said, we're going to be available. You want to talk to us, swap cards, have questions, we'll be around so that you can ask whatever you want to ask. Let's start off with Maggie. A couple of minutes each. Okay, closing thoughts.
I really want you to consider entrepreneurship not just about financial opportunity, professional opportunity, a career plan. My message to all of you is that it's about community stewardship. Becoming an entrepreneur, and it's a way to contribute to your community's growth. And in this area, we suffer the worst. It is truly the key to getting our community back on track. We've done so much to contribute to this great nation, and it would be such a shame for the young people here not to really follow along the path of our elders and our ancestors. And this time it's a little easier for us. You don't have dogs and police and death threats like we did back in the time. This phase of the movement is really just about you using your talents and your skills and the money you have in your pocket to economically empower our people. I really want you to consider entrepreneurship, but not just about the money, saying this is my way to make a difference in my community. And know that if you keep in touch with the Empowerment Experiment, there are a lot of organizations, companies, established business owners who are vested in your success of being an entrepreneur. We're trying to galvanize those resources, we're trying to galvanize those people so that it won't be such a hard path for you. We want you to really be passionate about it. And, you know, when you're looking for a mentor, or you're looking for resources, there's a lot of black VC firms who are really interested in helping folks like you build up your plans. I just helped my grocer who closed down during the Empowerment Experiment because of lack of support. I just connected him through the Empowerment Experiment to Super Value. They're doing some kind of Magic Johnson kind of plan with him, like with Starbucks, and he's going to have 10 stores, no money invested. just because they know he's serious about it. He can connect them to the growing African-American consumer base, and he presented to them the issue about the food deserts. And everyone wants to play their role in that. So please know that there's a lot of folks out there vested in your success, and being an entrepreneur is an absolute responsibility for you. You can do corporate first, but think about it in that way. And go to our website, please, and I have cards and everything, www.eefortomorrow.com. We need more young people involved in this movement.
Well said.
Thank you.
Okay, Brandon.
Well, I just want to say I saw a lot of hands go up for people who actually already own small businesses. Seek out professionals. Don't look at cost, but make sure that your company is actually organized properly, is structured properly, and that you're keeping accurate financial records now while you're small. I can't tell you how much more money and time is spent going back, trying to correct things to make it to where you can capitalize to go to the next level. That's probably one of the biggest things that we come across. You know, you run a successful mom and pop operation, but you've got receipts in the shoebox. But then all of a sudden, you have a contract opportunity that becomes available, and you're seeking, you know, capital and financing, but you don't have the records, or you're not structured properly to be able to take advantage of the opportunity. An opportunity is only good if you can take advantage of it. So make sure that you do all the things necessary on the front end to position yourself. There are a lot of resources available. I know we talked a little bit about international. If you don't know a lot about an area, or if you want to partner with someone in an area, the Department of Commerce, go to their website. They will assist you in vetting companies in the other country. They'll facilitate translators. So there are a lot of resources, to assist you in those endeavors. So just make sure you know what those are. If you don't, reach out to professionals. A lot of them will help you for free. So not knowing is no longer really an answer.
Yeah, I can connect you with someone in the Commerce Department that I had lunch with yesterday that's right here in town. So see me afterwards, and I'll give you his name and number. Okay, Ivy?
I just would like to close on some comments about your skill sets. I think when we talked a little bit about knowing the basics, so the basics of the analytical skills to understand whether your business is making money, enough basic problem-solving skills to know what to do about it if your business isn't making money. I would say if you can find a global opportunity, and I think these work for either being in corporate America or an entrepreneur, if you can find a global opportunity that's either you being able to travel somewhere and work in a different environment, take it. Because even if you don't love that particular place, it's not about the place. It's about the skill set that you learn by going into that situation. And then finally, I would just say managing your brand. And to the sister who, tell people you're an entertainment lawyer. Manage your brand, because what you put out there to us, that's what we've gotten. So manage the brand that you have, whether it's a corporate brand or whether it's your personal image.
Well said. Finally, Tiffany?
Well, I want to go back to the theme of this panel discussion, which was "'Tis the worst of times, 'tis the best of times." So it seems like we have some entrepreneurs, we have some people who probably have a 9-to-5, we have some people out in the audience that may not have a job at this time. So when you think about the worst of times, companies are laying off, and your boss comes and says, "Well, you've got to do the work of 2 people." It's the best of times because that's more experience for your resume. That's more that you can raise your hand and say, well, if I'm going to do these 2 jobs, you all need to send me to Germany. I want some global experience. Best of times, worst of times. You may not have a job right now, but maybe you have always thought, oh, I have this idea. Well, you have the time now to pursue that idea while you look for a job. 'Tis the best of times, 'tis the worst of times. You can't take a vacation. Your savings are depleted. You're paying bills. But hey, I have a friend that just went on a trip to Haiti and gave back their time. Not only are you're going somewhere, but yes, you're giving back your time, and then there's a network of people that you might meet there. So don't think that, when you're having a bad day, don't think, oh, woe is me. Because one thing that you can't get back, whether you want to stay in corporate America or you want to start your own business, is time. So use your time wisely, whether it's to study, whether it's to pursue a passion, whether it's to look for a job. Make sure that you're making every second count, because you will never get that time back. And you don't want to look back on life and say, what if I had done this? What if I had started this business? What if I had connected with that person that I met at that seminar? What if I had asked them for their contact information? So that's what I would leave you with. Use your time wisely and don't let it pass you by.
Well said.
Fantastic.
These days, well said. There are opportunities. There are out there with technology, through networking. There's expertise out there that you can tap. So, I mean, it really is, the options are limitless right now. Yes, it's more challenging, but it's definitely doable. It's possible. I'd like to thank our panel. I'd like to thank you for joining us. Please give them another round of applause. And again, we're going to stay here, so if you have any other questions, just come on up. But I think we have to